Hi folks, and welcome to Aches and Games, a relaxed monthly check-in between two slightly older British friends talking life, gaming, and basically whatever other stuff comes to mind. We've got a suitably spooky month for you this month, running down some of our favourite ghoulish and ghostly games. And embracing the horror theme, we're going to choose our new Game of the Month also. Plus, we'll look back at last month's Game of the Month, which was Age of Mythology Retold. And share what we've been up to playing and watching. But before we start, let's start with some quick intros. First up, don't forget you can find us between these monthly episodes at Aches and Games on Threads, X and most social platforms, and on our Facebook page by searching Aches and Games, or you can email us at achesandgamespod@gmail.com or find our website, which I believe is achesandgames.com. Yeah, nod from James.
No. Actiongames.co.uk.
This is why, you see, I don't go off script. Oh my word, what a start.
Yeah, it's Mary and Joseph.
Start. Yeah, well, the guy screwing this up is Giles Nicholson. I'm Giles Went West on most things. Joining me, tutting away, is my good friend James Hopes. James, apart from my inability to remember our website, how are things?
Yeah, very good. Oh, that's really knocked me for six, that error.
I could imagine.
So it is actiongames.co.uk because
That's
we're
good.
a company in the United Kingdom. Very clever.
Yeah.
You're not really a company, are we? We're just having a laugh. Anyway, yes, so my name is James. I've known Giles for many, many years, and we do this podcast together, and it's good fun most of the time, so I hope you enjoy listening to it. I'm at You Have to Laugh on social media, because that used to be my parenting blog in the old days when Joshua was young enough to still talk about him and not be embarrassed. And on PlayStation Network, I'm James Your Boy 1978. And on Xbox, I'm James Boy 78 with 4 random numbers, which I'm never going to remember. So there we go. All good. How are you, Joe? Well?
Yeah, apart from that small fumble, I'm a bit jet lagged, as we'll get to. I'm just flown back into the country last night. And otherwise, I'm curious, as I'm sure listeners are, what that episode was that wasn't fun. And if you're curious, listeners, why not listen to all of them? Check them out and email us in, which was the non-fun one. I think, to be fair, we did have an episode that we recorded in full and then had to re-record. That was quite tough. But I think the recorded version sounded quite good in the end. I was quite pleased with that. But for us, that was a bit of a slog. I'm very well, thank you. What have you been up to this month, James?
Yeah, disappointingly little. I've not been overseas. I've not been doing anything particularly exciting. We've still been bogged down in the decoration because of the building works, as we talk about many times. And the building works has sort of stumbled a little bit because internally it's pretty much finished. We're just waiting for a little bit more paintwork and some carpets. So internally it's pretty much done. But they can't quite get the roof right, which is a bit of a ball ache, unfortunately. So the front of the roof looks all right, but the back of the roof does not. Whatever reason, the trusses they put in, which are designed by the architect and then built by another company, don't quite line up with the existing roof. So at the back, they start off lining up nicely between the old and the new roof with the tiles, and then the tiles get higher on the new roof than they are on the old roof. So to make it watertight, they've put loads of lead on it, which looks awful. So we said, we don't like that. So now they're going to try and come back, strip all the tiles back off again and try and adjust the trusses in place somehow using some tools to make it look less rubbish. So really annoying because the scaffolding should have been down, the roof should have been done, we should have had the drainage in, we should have had a path built. But we can't do any of those things because the roof is not finished and therefore the scaffolding can't come down and therefore the plumbing can't be complete. So everything's installed, the water's working everywhere, but there's no drainage. So my mum could technically use the toilet and flush it, but everything would just drop out the side of the house into the mire. So not ideal. So as such, my mum can't move into it yet because there's no drainage. And obviously drainage in modern society is vaguely important compared to the olden days.
Yeah, in the olden days, didn't you just shout out Gardy Lou and just, think that no one was walking underneath? But I guess you can't do that anymore.
No, although there wouldn't be anyone walking underneath in our house, so it might be quite useful. But also, it might be a bit smelly after a few weeks of effort. So there we go. So annoyingly, building work's good. Lots of decorating done. That's all we've done this month, but it's not quite finished. And it's getting a little bit frustrating because it's coming towards Christmas and we were hoping my mum would be in sort of October time. And now it is October time and she's not yet in. So a bit annoying in that part. But apart from that, we had our nice night out, didn't we, G?
We did.
For joint birthday celebrations for our two lovely other halves, one of which was unwell and the other one wasn't, for a change. So that was really nice. We had a good night out, had some nice food, a few drinks afterwards. So, yeah, all very pleasant and aiming to do one again for Christmas now, which we always have a yearly Christmas party at our house. So once the work's done, everyone will hopefully be managing to come round. I know Giles is incredibly busy, so might just about squeeze it in, or might not. We shall see. But yeah, we've got some plans. So there we go. How about you, G? I know you're overseas for virtually all of it, so tell us some stuff.
Yeah, no, that's certainly going to limit my gaming in the last few weeks. But yes, we've had a great month. We've been in the States, so we flew to Boston, went around in New England, and then finished off in New York for Anna's birthday. Had a fantastic time. I managed to. Listeners from last month will know that you all yourself, Sarah and Joshua, all managed to get a bit of a lurgy, didn't you, on your holiday? So that was very sad and very different form of illness. But I managed to get sick on ours, which was not ideal, especially as the primary driver on a driving holiday. That was not great. But yeah, we had a sort of mini break in Boston first of all. So did some tourist things. Apologised a lot for being English because we tended to be the bad guys in most of those stories. But we saw all of the places we were awful, or at least within that city. Anyone listening across the world, we were probably awful wherever you are too. So that was fun. We went in the spirit of aches and games, we went to a baseball game at Fenway Park on the Friday night. So that was
Nice.
really fun. Terrible game. Utterly dreadful. The Red Sox, as you may or may not know listening, they have had some success in the past, but they are playing pretty appallingly this year. And brilliantly, the game that we saw, they had a chance somehow still to get a sort of wild card shot in the playoffs. If only they could just not be dreadful. And what do you guess happened? They could barely hit the ball. So, we saw a lot of nothing really in the game. But it was a great experience to be there. It was a really good atmosphere. Both teams had a chance to go into this wild card playoff. And essentially it was like two English people saying after you a lot of the time, and no one actually going through this doorway into the playoffs. So that was quite fun. So Boston was great. Then we had a small interlude while I got better. So we had to rearrange plans a little bit through New England, but saw some lovely countryside, very different experience. Went to a place called Lake Winnipesaukee, which I'm only saying because I know how to say it and I feel a bit smug about it. But saw some lovely nature, and also went up the coast to a place called Acadia Bay. No, I knew I'd do that. Acadia National Park in Maine, which was gorgeous, and not Arcadia Bay, which, if you've played Life is Strange, you will do exactly the same mistake I kept doing in my head and just managed to do on podcast. But yeah, that was stunning. And then to finish in New York, very, exactly what you'd expect. Pretty hectic. We had a bit of rain, but mostly good weather. It was Hannah's birthday, so we did some birthday stuff, did some cultural stuff as well. Went to Broadway to see Water for Elephants. Also saw a brilliant exhibition, really just a migration of elephants, sort of walking down one of the roads. I say walking down, they're obviously static, but these amazing models of elephants. There's 100 elephants in a row, or sort of in a migration, so a sort of pattern in this one road, which was absolutely stunning. And also went to a museum to see some older paintings and stuff. So a bit of culture, a bit of drinking, usual touristy stuff. Went up some high things, took some nice photos, came back with heavier luggage than we went with, and landed last night. So hopefully I will be able to stay on point today.
Yeah, that was very good. Very good summary as well. Very quick, very brief.
I try. Yeah. It's like with photos, I think, you know, especially with mobile phones or digital photography, you take hundreds, don't you? And then someone says, "Oh, can I see your photos?" And you're like, what you mean is, can I see, I don't know, 10 to 20 of your photos that give me a taster? So hopefully I managed that in audio form, listeners. But if you're desperate, I could put some pictures up somewhere. But no, I think you'll probably, they're the ones you would expect, plus some elephants. So if you are in the States, that elephant thing, it's in New York till the 20th of October. And then they migrate across the States from the East Coast to the West Coast. So if you do have to be one of our few American listeners and they're coming past you, I'd highly recommend it. Really fun.
Awesome. I'm now picturing you as a bearded Judith Chalmers, Giles, after that. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair description. And again, for anyone under 40, you're probably not listening, or not British, you're also probably not listening. That's the sort of topical cultural reference that you're tuning in for, no doubt. Yes. Travel show from the 80s, 90s?
Yeah, probably. It's great though, wasn't it?
A long time ago. It was good, yeah. I wish you were here.
Did she live Busman's Holiday as well? Was that Judith Chalmers' Busman's Holiday as well?
Did she?
Great programmes, yeah. But anyway, those are the days.
That's the travel show from the 80s and 90s podcast that you'll soon be able to listen to for our Patreon listeners. So that was basically my month, planning for that, doing that, and then coming back from that. But I do have some games that I played. I do have a few other bits. So how about you, James? Have you been, you were responsible for keeping the end up, talking about what you've been up to, anything you've been watching or listening or that sort of stuff. We tend to do that in the podcast, don't we? I'm just reminding myself.
Yeah, it's not a general idea of it, isn't it? So yeah, we watched some things on the telly box, which is quite fun. Annoyingly, I can't remember if I mentioned last month, but we had our giant 77-inch TV put into the new family area with the sofa, and obviously it's got a PlayStation, Xbox, and a Switch in there, and a PC. So it's got everything in there. So I thought it'd be a nice idea to have the router from our Virgin box in there, so that it's right next to it, and you can plug it all in via Ethernet cable, so nice and reliable and not Wi-Fi. It sounded like it was going to be really easy. I thought, but it's meant that the rest of the house now, since I moved the router, it doesn't have great Wi-Fi anymore because it's now in the wrong place and there's brick walls in the way. And now I've been desperately trying to put different Wi-Fi extenders and all kinds of devices around to try and get the Wi-Fi in different places. And as you can hear, I'm currently in Josh's bedroom and the Wi-Fi is working fine. So I was delighted with that after about a week of buying different devices, taking them back, finding things that didn't work, cursing wildly. Anyway, the TV, we watched, apart from Busman's Holiday and the other Judith Chalmers programs from the 80s, we watched Maths was back on, Maths UK, which is Married at First Sight for those who aren't very good with acronyms. That's where people meet for the first time at their wedding and get married and go on a honeymoon and then argue for the next few weeks, and then everyone ends in tears, and it's quite entertaining to watch. So we're back into that one now. Another one we've been watching is called My Mum, Your Dad, which is a sort of a different take on a dating show. So roughly speaking, some children put their parents forward, or their one parent. That's normally people who've been divorced or whatever else, and they take them to a house with some other parents of opposite sex, and they parents spend a couple of weeks in a sort of a manor house with lots of other single parents. The kids then go to another room somewhere else, and they can watch their parents do all the things for the 2-week period. They get to choose who they go on dates with and what kind of dates, and give them some advice and stuff. So it's quite fun. The kids are all seem really wholesome. It's a very wholesome show. It's hosted by Davina McCall, so it's bound to be wholesome. So yeah, it's all about the kids trying to get their parents some happiness in their later life. And it's really interesting. So we've only watched the first 2 episodes, but they're all available to stream at the moment. So that's good fun. Kind of other bits. Been back to Below Deck as well, which I mentioned was that boating show where the crew takes people on little charter cruises. So that's quite fun. And finally, Celebrity SAS is back. We always love Celebrity SAS. It's where some very, very minor celebrities go on an equivalent of a sort of two-week SAS recruitment course. So they do the basic training and they run places and they do abseiling and jump off things and beat each other up and all kinds of fun stuff. And in the end, they normally get kidnapped and they have to be taken hostage and then not give out the information in the last episode. So again, we're only in episode 2 so far, and that's one a week at the moment. But it's always really good fun. Really low-level celebrities this time. It's probably the worst group of celebrities I've seen in terms of fame. The only half-famous one was John Barrowman, and he lasted, I think, 34 minutes before giving up. So he left on day one because he couldn't be asked and realised it wasn't for him. No one else is remotely famous at all, so still entertaining. Lots of Love Island people and lots of celebrity YouTubers. Maybe one day we'll be on it next season, Giles, if they scrape the barrel low enough. We'll both be on it in New Zealand next year, so something to look forward to.
Yeah, I've realised I was quite... I'm not sure I'd enjoy going on those shows, but I was curious, particularly about the island with Bear Grylls, I think. And then you just have to be with me in any normal situation to know how much water I get through. And I think I would either be dead, horribly dehydrated, or completely hated by the rest of the sort of crew, because when they sort of get given limited water before they can kind of find a water source and kind of make it safe. I would be through that in like 10 minutes. So one of the meals we went to, actually Hannah's birthday meal we went out for, and the poor, there was a guy whose only job was there to refill water in the restaurant. He wouldn't take orders or do anything else. He was just watering around with the water. And I felt like after an hour and a half or so with him that we really knew each other, because we saw him every 2 minutes. He kept coming back, looking at the glass, kind of looking at me like, really? And then filling it up. So yes. Oh, that sounds fun. Anyway, the FTS thing I used to enjoy.
Yeah, it's always good fun. And weirdly, I don't drink much water at all. So whenever we go out for restaurants together, there's always lots of water being poured, and there's me drinking alcohol, not really seeing the water at all, let alone drinking it, and other people necking it. So everyone's different, especially at our age. You find your vein, your channel, and you stick with it, which is perfectly good.
And in your case, inject alcohol straight into it. Is that what you're saying?
Pour it into the eyeballs. It's all fine. Quicker the better.
Nice.
So that was it for my TV bits. But I've also been watching some Reading games with Maddie and Craig and all the other fun people that we hang around with, and we've been doing a bit better as well. So some light at the end of the tunnel there in terms of entertainment. So yeah, that's my month really: decorating, football, TV, and playing some games, which we'll come on to shortly.
Yeah, just quickly, I saw my first episode of Below Deck while we were away. So I was very excited that you mentioned it. I remembered you watched it, and I can immediately see myself being hooked, apart from the fact that I'd imagine they're on a different series, or some whole different crew maybe to the ones that we've got. But yes, I can see the appeal. It was very fun. We mostly were surviving based on things we'd downloaded, although we did have some access to American TV as well, which is like 90% adverts from what I gather. But good stuff in between, certainly. But yeah, we took the rest of the series of Colin from Accounts with us, the second season series. They're disappointed, actually. I really loved the first one, enjoyed the second one, but it was a bit more serious, a bit more drama-y than comedy. Still good, though. Still recommend it. And we've been watching Slow Horses on Apple TV, where we could, because I've got Android stuff, so there's no apps, but we had a few smart TVs that had an Apple TV app, so we were able to log in and watch that, and watched it while we adjusted to the right time zone last night. So highly recommend that. It's a sort of spy thriller with Gary Oldman and Christian Thomas, and I think Hugo Weaving is in this series. Really, really good. Colin from Accounts, I think I've talked about before, but sort of comedy, Australian comedy. And then the only other thing we have watched is Race Across the World, so our celebrity reality thing. Was Race Across the World, which celebrity version finished this month. Very much enjoyed that too. But yeah, mostly travelling, the occasional snippet of Weather Channel or highly partisan news channels, all quite entertaining, but probably not to talk about. So time to skip on, I think. James.
Well, foreign TV is always interesting now as a topic. We've been to many countries over the years, obviously, and some are lots of English type stuff, and some you get nothing at all. There's one country we were in once, I think it might have been Iceland. There's only 2 TV channels in the hotel, and one of them had sort of horse dancing was one of them. All the horses are dressed up in fancy clothing and they're all dancing around. Very strange. That was the only thing that we could pick out of being anything at all. And then there's one news channel, so it was either dancing horses or news in Icelandic. So it wasn't great. But the place is nice. Long time ago, before Joshua was born, blimey. Anyway, games. Sorry.
This is why everyone does outsidey things in Iceland, isn't it? Because your TV choices dancing horses or news. Hopefully they're well treated as well. That's, I guess, the tricky bit about stuff like that. But when you said horse dancing, that's what I call dressage. So I thought you were disparagingly talking about dressage as well, which is more strictly horse dancing. It's more the elegant kind, isn't it? Like ballroom for horses, basically.
And also, now you mentioned Strictly, we also have been watching Strictly for the last couple of weeks, because obviously now that's back on as well. But there's no horses, but they are all very well dressed and happy most of the time.
And now well treated, yes, exactly.
Yes.
So there is a connection after the scandals or whatnot. Right, as always, we're going horribly off plan. Should we talk about games?
Yeah, why not? What have you been playing, G?
Let's do it. Well, not a huge amount, James. So in
Ah,
the same way that you carried me, no, I carried you last episode. I was hoping you were gonna carry us through. Um, Should we start with last month's game of the month, which was Age of Mythology Retold, or
yes.
Retold even? Do you? I don't know if you have a description handy. Otherwise, I do have one. I can explain to the listeners.
Yeah, I think the description was some old people did some fun things and killed lots of people and then took over some stuff.
There you go, pretty
Yeah.
much. Although not entirely in the same way that Jeanne d'Arc last month was not entirely historically accurate. I think there may be one or two liberties taken here because, yeah, similar to the Age of Empires series, which is a bit more historically accurate,
Yeah.
this one is a little bit more fantastical, isn't it? So
Got some mythology in it, innit?
yeah, real-time strategy developed by World's Edge and Forgotten Empires, published by Xbox Game Studios, so on PC and Xbox. Released this month, so we were strangely relevant for our show, having played something from, what was it, like 1996 or something last month. So bang up to date. But this was a sort of remake of a 2002 game, so, you know, not too modern for anyone thinking, hold on a second, I did not tune in for culturally relevant references. I mentioned a spin-off of the Age of Empires series, which, have you played any Age of Empires, James? I played a bit.
Oh, not for many years. I used to play it a lot when I was younger. Because obviously I did ancient history for my first degree at university, so I used to be a big fan of mythology and the classics, and I was going to say Latin. I wasn't a big fan of Latin at all. I despised it, but I did it for a few years. But yeah, I've always been interested in Greek and Roman mythology and that kind of time period. So all of the beasts and the gods and everything that appears in the game is all quite relevant and quite fun. So it makes it a bit more exciting, having studied it for 3 years.
Well, with that in mind, James, and in the presence of an expert, what did you think?
Yeah, well, as you know, because of our research, it's all based on Arcantos and Atlantean general.
Our research like a minute before we recorded, listeners.
Yeah, I couldn't find it anywhere.
Very
And then Giles remembered it. I have been playing. I just couldn't remember his name, bizarrely. So yeah, you start off with some campaigns. I always enjoy campaign mode generally more than the other stuff. So I always start with campaign mode and try and work my way through that. So I've played the first few campaigns. It's quite a steady pace at the start. Like with most of those type of games, there's a lot of building involved. So you build houses, build like a town centre, and you build different facilities. So there's like an armory to equip your people. To fight things, and then there's like a military base where you could turn people into soldiers, although they've got a funny name obviously because it's ancient history, and you can turn people into people who fire things at people like arrows and stuff. So that's the basics that start off with, and effectively you're in a place in Atlantis obviously, and Poseidon appears to have been annoyed, so you're trying to cheer him up a bit by doing some nice things. So someone in the opening couple of missions, I won't give too much away, stole Poseidon's trident and took it somewhere. So which is very bad, and that annoyed Poseidon. So then you, as Arcantos, the Atlantean general, have to go off on your little boat to another place to try and take it back. And that involves meeting up with people and forging an army and overcoming baddies, doing bad things. And then as the missions go by, you sort of get involved in the Battle of Troy, so that's quite interesting as well. So lots of different battles that are historically relevant. And you can use in this one, because it's based on mythology, you can use funny stuff. So you can use the power of the gods to help you out. So you can like rain thunderbolts and storms on different villages, but you can only use it once. And if you use it again, you have to have more points to reuse it, which is quite fun. So that puts a new spin on it. Obviously in the olden days with Age of Empires, it was mainly just shooting people and hitting people, but these days you can set the gods on them as well, so it adds a new twist to it. And there's lots of mythical creatures as well, like minotaurs and different kinds of beasties that come along and attack you, and you can have on your side as well. And you can also create your own heroes, so you're not just limited to Arcantos, you can also create some more heroes when you build up enough points and power in your bases. And as soon as you get sort of the religion bit, the churchy bit built, you can then exploit different gods and have them on your side and fun stuff. So interesting. I played on Xbox because my PC I hadn't quite set up at the time in our new room, but now I have. So on the Xbox, it was interesting because obviously the game is probably primarily designed for use on the PC with a mouse and keyboard, but on the Xbox it's a little bit more fiddly. So we always find those kind of games a lot better on the PC. But I persisted on the Xbox and gave it a go, and after a few hours of play, it did kind of get used to it. But at first, it was quite annoying because you sort of clicked on a character using A, and then you pressed on another building to take them there, which is fine. But then you forgot to press B to unselect the character, and then you press A somewhere else, and then your character that you'd set to chop a tree, and then buggered off and pick some berries or something. It was really annoying. So it took a little bit of getting used to, and it's tried hard trying to train my brain to unselect a character before you selected someone else to walk somewhere else. So it's a bit fiddly, the controls, but after a while I got kind of used to it. But I think it would be a lot better playing on a PC, so I'll probably replay it at some point in the future using a PC because it's a bit more intuitive. But the graphics are lovely, miles better than they used to be in the olden days with the original version. So the big battle scenes look quite good, the characters look good, the buildings look really nice. It's a really nice game, and the reviews have been good. I think most reviews have been sort of mid-80s, early 90s, so that's probably where it sits for me. A little bit complex at first, but once you pick up a really good game, and you can spend hours and hours and days on it, even working through the campaign parts, because each campaign in itself is fairly challenging, I found. It wasn't sort of a walk in the park, so even like the third or fourth mission was reasonably difficult. So yeah. good experience, good improvement on the original, and nice. That's probably good as it's going to get on the Xbox, so I'll move on to the PC soon. What do you think?
Cool. Yes, similar, I think. Also played on the Xbox with the controller, echo what you say. I think they did really well. It's the same team did a remake or something or other of Age of Empires 2 last year on Xbox, and everything that they learn in terms of sort of some good shortcuts, some kind of auto farming, because you farm resources, don't you, as well as building and then sort of building your army. And so there's sort of some quite helpful kind of presets, kind of saying everyone focus on these things or this resource or a mixture in a certain sort of proportions, which is really helpful. So you can kind of automate some of that in the background, which is really clever. But I agree with you, it's still quite fiddly. And I also found myself sending people off to do something. And I also found myself losing people quite a lot. I remember playing things like Command and Conquer back in the day on console as well as on PC, and Red Alert specifically on console. And they were, I think, a bit better about being able to sort of select a group of, excuse me, microphone, select a group of units, but maybe group that unit by type, and I don't know if I've just not found the right control, but I kept selecting some of my kind of peasants to charge into battle with some of the more suitably armed teams, and they didn't do so well, it's fair to say, up against trained armies. But yeah, I thought the same. It looked good. I was expecting to prefer it to Age of Empires just because of the sort of fantastical elements, and you mentioned about sort of having the powers that you can wield. I actually found that a little bit more confusing because it's a sort of extra layer on top of the kind of Age of Empires style battles. So I wasn't 100% sold on that. I did only play probably 5 hours just before I went away, and I'm really curious because I felt like I was just getting into the groove of it, and obviously now having been away without access to my Xbox, I suspect I'll have to get up to speed again, so that'll be tricky. But yeah, enjoyed it. Real-time strategy, so we've ticked off a few different genres now in our games of the month. Again, really pleased that we tried it. If anyone else gave it a try, please let us know what you thought. But yeah, I think I can see myself coming back to it, but I can also see myself, if I can't remember anything that I've learned, I'm not sure I'm ready to spend the time to get back up to speed. So that's going to be the biggest barrier to me picking it up again. Did you try any other modes, James? You mentioned you played the campaign. I haven't played Skirmish or any of the multiplayer yet. Are you the same?
Yeah, very much the same. I always do that entire campaign in every game first before I venture forward. I'm quite traditional like that. I like being told what to do and having challenges to meet and complete. And certainly the campaign's hard enough without trying the rest of it. So at some stage in the future, but I think the campaign's going to take weeks to finish rather than finish it in the evening. So yeah, lots still to do.
Yes, I think there's 50 different missions or something.
Yeah.
It's a big old campaign, so we'll see how we go on that one. Anything else you've been playing this month, James?
Yes, so that certainly a few little ones, and then I'll come on to my big one for the month. So I've been playing lots of Fortnite with Joshua, there's a Marvel pack or Marvel season at the moment, which is quite fun. There's loads of good mythics and lots of good weapons in that one. So me and him have been playing that quite a bit and getting reasonably less bad at it. Obviously, Josh is very good, and I'm awful still, but I'm less awful than I was. So I don't look so ridiculous now, and he doesn't shout at me quite as much as he was a few weeks ago. So that's good. I carried on playing Jeanne d'Arc, so I quite enjoyed it when we did our game of the month thingy. So I've still been progressing with that one. I've got quite far on it. I'm probably 9 hours in now, and I think it's like a 25, 30-hour game. I'm probably about a third of the way through, so that's still quite enjoyable. You told me last month about Case of Golden Idol, so me and Sarah tried that one evening. Just for an hour. Just for an hour, we played the first few levels. Yeah, really good fun. You mentioned, when you described it, it's hard to picture what you were describing, but then when you actually play it, you say, oh yeah. So you have to drag words into certain parts of text to show what actually happened in the scenario. So you get given some images, sometimes in one room, sometimes in multiple rooms, and you wander between the rooms, find all the relevant words, and then try and piece together what might have happened based on the little newspaper cuttings or little scraps of paper or little things they're carrying around with them. So interesting, bit different, obviously not graphically amazing. You can probably play it on a Spectrum or in a flick book, probably. But it's very entertaining, so we got into that one. We'll probably go back to that one. A couple of other things that I mentioned last month about Antstream. You said if I get it, you're probably going to cave and get it in the future. So I did get Antstream, just for a yeah, just for a 1 year subscription. Obviously, you reminded us last month it is $39.99 per year rather than per month. That's much better value than I claimed it to be. So I got it for a year just to try out and see what it was like. There's loads and loads of games on it, to be fair. So I've only had a quick go on it. So I searched for Spectrum and found lots of old Spectrum games. So I played Horace Goes Skiing as an example of and it works really well. It works as well as it did on the Spectrum, which was obviously at the time felt like it was very wonderfully playable. But these days you look at it and go, oh, it's actually pretty crap. But it's iconic. So I quite enjoyed playing it for the iconic value. I also play The Land Where Time Stood Still, I think. It's like there's 4 characters in a plane crash, and you land on an island which is inhabited by dinosaurs and monsters and stuff. So you wander around in this all black and white spotted screen. It's kind of a survival game, so you will have hunger bars and tiredness bars and ammo, and you can shoot dinosaurs and wander around trying to find things to keep you alive and eventually escape, I think. But I never completed it as a child. I've certainly not gone anywhere completing it as an adult either. So I played that. Very, very annoying theme tune. I recommend playing it just for the annoying theme tune, because it never leaves your head. But yeah, it looks graphically awful. But I did sell it on my Spectrum for £104. That was a game that's very dear to my heart.
There we go.
And very dear for the person who bought it off me on eBay. Hey, and I've got an Antstream to play for free anyway, so all good. But the big thing I've been playing in the month is Plague Tale Requiem, which you've mentioned before.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it as being a summer game in our best summer games last time, because at the start of the game you start off walking through the sunshine in a field with some flowers, and it's quite pretty in the south of France somewhere. But obviously then it falls apart a bit because you start getting attacked and there's rats everywhere and pestilence and misery.
That's a New York summer. Sorry, New York.
Yeah. It's another really dark game. So there's a boy called Hugo who effectively has got some kind of disease, which is probably called the macula or something. And he gets really veiny whenever it kicks in. Bless him. So it kind of looks like the bloated dead body in Seven, that film years ago. He looks really veiny when it comes up. Anyway, so bizarrely he makes rats appear, sort of possessed demon rats, kind of relevant to plague, obviously. And eventually he can channel his powers and he can control the rats, so you can set rats on enemies by him taking on the power of the rats, which is quite fascinating. But the main character is called Amicia, so she wanders around and kills lots of people with a little slingshot, and she can also set fire to things using her slingshot. And her companion does alchemy type stuff, so he managed to come up with little spells that she can use, so you can put out someone else's torch, because the rats hate torches and hate light. So if you can put out someone's torch, one of the enemies, then the rats come and eat them, because then they're not carrying a torch because you've put it out. So interesting dynamic. It's quite similar in some ways to Uncharted, weirdly, which is not by the same company, obviously, by Naughty Dog. But you can creep around in fields of high grasses and you get a little sense of when the enemy's nearby. Then if you get seen too long, they come and start trying to attack you. So loads of similarities there. Lots of climbing around, lots of jumping, lots of fun stuff, but really dark because there's loads of rats and they generally eat lots of people, and there's loads of massacred bodies knocking around, and then the soldiers are putting everyone in a cart and taking them out of the city to try and cure the city of the plague, which your small child Hugo was brought to the village So really good game. Really enjoying that one. Played it for about 10 hours, so I'm probably about halfway through. But yeah, it's probably one of my favourite games. Got a nice blend of Uncharted and The Last of Us and lots of other games with a similar genre. And one I think Scott will quite like. Well, Scott enjoyed The Last of Us. He'll probably enjoy this one because it's quite similar in terms of gameplay and storytelling and, yeah, all those good things. You played it before, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a bit less action-packed, isn't it? A bit more puzzly, a bit more stealthy than either of those two, I think, overall. Although you said you're playing Requiem, right? Which is the second one. Yeah. So Innocence was the first one, which was a bit more. I think they had less budget, and it was sort of less actiony, much more focused on the stealth. This one is a bit ramped up. But yeah, no, I loved it, and it looks stunning as well. It's one of the best-looking games I'd played at the time. I don't know if it still holds up, but it was only a couple of years ago, so I'd imagine it still looks great. And yes, brother and sister combo, wasn't it? Hugo and Amicia. So I think and various siblings involved in that story, one way or another. But Amicia and Hugo, I think brother and sister. Really glad you're enjoying it. It was one of my favourites last year or the year before. So good choice.
Yeah, probably not ideal if you've got a phobia of rats, which I believe is called moosophobia. So
really?
Yeah, not so good. Yeah. I think I googled it and there's moosophobia. I was like,
that's confusing.
Yeah,
what's
it's kind
the
of
fear
a
of mooses? Is that ratophobia? Just to mess with people. It's like Iceland and Greenland. It's just the wrong way around.
Yeah, same place, different places. Who knows? So yeah, really good game, and I've certainly been spending a lot of time playing that one instead of doing all the things I'm meant to be doing in terms of decorating the house and stuff. Graphics are great, sound is good, the voice acting is quite good, and Amicia is a nice, strong female lead character. She gets a bit bloodthirsty and keeps killing people rather than being stealthy at times, and then sets a whole army upon her, which is a bit silly. But she meets up with another large character. Completely forgot what his name is, even though I just played it last night, who I think was in the first game. So there's a big soldier who helps her around, and they've just travelled in a boat to Lacuna, which is the island that Hugo keeps seeing in his dreams. So that's the part I've just got to. I've just arrived at Lacuna and can't wait for more.
Awesome. Recommend it. It might even be on PlayStation Plus at the moment. So if you're listening and don't fancy paying for it, check that out, people. You might be able to get it for free. He said doing air quotes on a podcast.
I'll be honest, Giles. I'd be playing Plague Tale Innocence if that was free, but being a Requiem is the one that is free. I'm playing that one. Even though it's in the wrong order, yes.
Quite right, too. Well, I think, as you're probably demonstrating, you probably can pick things up quite quickly. Lots of rats. Kid who's not very well. That's kind of the gist of it. And they have, it's the thing with games, isn't it? The sequels can really sort of iterate on the sort of gameplay loop and kind of really build on the experience, just become sort of bigger and broader. And most of the times that works. Sometimes that sort of intimate, smaller, shorter story was the way to go. I'm maybe looking at you, Hellblade, but we'll see what you think after playing those ones in the future. Cool. Yes, Antstream. I will get it because it does sound like fun. And also, we have had a request for more retro coverage, so maybe that's my in to that one. Awesome. Well, helpfully, because we're running quite long, I haven't really played very much because I've been travelling. Although I did want to highlight that what I have been playing has been mostly on Switch, because I took the Switch with me. And I did start Disco Elysium. So you talked about that, James, previous episodes, and really enjoyed it, from what I gather. Yes. And essentially, listeners, go back and listen to what James had to say about Disco Elysium, because I think pretty much the same. Based on first few hours with it. We flew back business. Very fancy. Not our usual travel, but it meant that we were in our own sort of little cocooned pods. So I've realised a few things about my gaming. Number one, the Nintendo Switch battery life is pretty good. So that was reassuring. I thought I was going to have to be recharging all the time, having got used to my ROG Ally, which you do have to recharge all the time. But whether it's Disco Elysium or the Switch or a combination, I could get a lot of juice out of that thing. And in private, in a nice little pod, able to sort of focus on the game, I could really get into it. Whereas otherwise travelling, I found that actually I just realised I've not got the attention span if there's other stuff going on. I'm not someone who's ever gonna, I think, be able to sort of bury myself in a nice sprawling RPG on the Switch while the stuff going on around me. So that was perfect for the flight home and a bit of other downtime. We played Lego Harry Potter because we got it set up on the TV a couple of times.
Nice.
So continued that. Still haven't got very far, but enjoying it. I also played, hilariously, FIFA 18 because that's the one I own on Switch, and that was really good for just a quick game on the plane on the way out. Amused me for two reasons that I thought I'd share on the pod. Number one, the Reading squad has moved on somewhat since FIFA 18. Do you remember Behrens on the left?
Yeah,
And,
right.
it was a real blast from the past generally with the squad that I was playing with. I don't think anyone is still here and still playing, but that was quite fun. And also it reminded me that I think now with FC whatever it is 25, they've actually released a new game, but it reminded me how awful EA are because on Switch, I think after FIFA 18, they released the same game just with different player names for about 6 years without actually updating it at all. Like literally just reskin things and put new names in and didn't bother making a new game because it was on an old engine and they couldn't be bothered, but they were still bothered to sell it for full price. So boo to EA, yay to me for playing FIFA 18, getting my value for money out of it. And yeah, those little short, sharp games. There's also a little puzzle game called Railbound, which was really fun, where you're just laying tracks and trying to get your train carts. They're sort of numbered, so you have to get them in the right order, but to go and join the engine so that it can drive off. So you're laying tracks, having to change the points within the tracks. It's all touch screens, so it's all very easy. The perfect game for me for Switch or mobile. Actually, it's on Android and iOS as well. Just for those sort of bus journeys, train journeys, little taxing your brain. I'd highly recommend it. It's really fun. So that was me, and managed to get a few little snippets in, but mostly, James, thank you for carrying this episode when it comes to gaming. Next month, neither of us, as far as I know, are going on holiday.
Nope.
So the coming game of the month, which I've just realised I put in my notes, is for September, but it is October, isn't it? And
Yes.
there's a reason we've chosen our game of the month, because it is spooky season, and we've gone for Dead Space. So this month, listeners, if you have PlayStation Plus, it's one of the free games of the month. If you have Game Pass, I believe it's still available through Game Pass Ultimate. It's still available for free there as well through EA Play. And if you have neither of those, but you're on PC in particular, EA Play, the cheaper version, the library version, you can get it through there. So it looks really fun. It's a remake of the 2008 horror game, even. Another remake, seems to be the theme of things at the moment, unfortunately, but survival horror, developed by Motive for EA, and it's set on a mining spaceship overrun by deadly monsters called necromorphs. You get to sort of use some initiative and creativity to sort of fashion some weapons to take them on, improvise to survive, they say, and unravel the mystery aboard the USG Ishimura. It's got a really good reputation, this one, James. Have you played it before? Have you heard of it? Are you looking forward to it?
Definitely heard of it. Definitely never played it. I knew it was on Game Pass, so I was quite happy when it came onto the PlayStation 1 for Halloween. There was a few horror type games on the various subscription services in October, obviously, so that fits in quite nicely. We also had Little Nightmares as well on a subscription service last month, didn't we, or this month?
Yep.
Coming. So we'll talk about that one in a minute when we come onto our spooky games section. But yeah, no, this one sounds good. I think I read someone that is not only battling the baddies, is also battling his failing mental health, isn't he? Or battling the demons in his mind or some stuff like that. So it sounds quite entertaining. I'm sure it'll be great. And it's got a kind of, I guess, kind of a Still Wakes a Deep kind of vibe to it in some ways. So similar to one we've played before, which is that one, because there's monsters in a sort of an atmospheric not abandoned, but an atmospheric type place that's not on Earth. So quite confined and quite lots of corridors and things to wander through and avoid being beaten up and killed by things. So yeah, looking forward to it. It'll be great, I'm sure, for Halloween.
Excellent. Yes, I think both of us have talked in the past about being strangely attracted to some of the more grisly, horrible sounding things when you try and describe them, especially on a podcast. I think it really brings it to life when you're talking about children with horrible diseases that attract rats, for example. That seems to be, we're really nice people in real life if you ever get the chance to meet us, honest Gov. But yeah, no, this one sounds like fun. And I certainly was, I think we both talked about trying to play the Resident Evil remakes at some point, or the ones that are available. There's a couple of other horror games on my list to play. So this feels like the month to do it, and we will, as you said, talk about that a bit later. Good stuff. Right, looking forward to that. Some quick news bites before we do get into our main topic of the month. Again, coming in fairly hot for this episode. I have not really been following the news, so James, I'm gonna just throw to you lots of information, and hopefully you might have some thoughts on some of these. The PS5 Pro rather, was announced and didn't sell out, and there was all kinds of controversy about the price, or pearl clutching about how much it costs. Any thoughts on the PS5 Pro and its failure to sell?
Yeah, I mean, it looks nice. It's got the three stripes on it, which is quite cute.
Yeah.
I'll probably wait until a lot later on when it drops below the magical £300 mark, like I do with everything else. But I don't think it's going to get there for quite a while. Because it starts up at £700, and that doesn't include the disc drive or the stand. So lots of people are very excited about the price of that one. But then other people have said you pay like £1,000 for a mobile phone, and so yeah, everything's very expensive these days, isn't it? So you either pay for it or you don't. Surprised by the number of games already announced as being PS5 Pro enhanced. Well, so that's a kind of a good thing, because it shows that developers are taking it seriously and hopefully exploiting the additional teraflops or whatever it does. So that's fun. But like I said, the price is obviously putting off a lot of people because it's a load of money. And I think we said before, haven't we, on this podcast, that they haven't quite exploited the full potential of the PlayStation 5 yet, let alone exploiting the PS5 Pro. So until you get loads more really top-notch games to the PS5, then I think most people probably still would stick with the PS5 for a couple of years until it comes. There's also been talk of the PlayStation 6 already, so quite how long the PlayStation 5 Pro will be out for and whether it'll be worth the investment for most people is a bit dubious. The one that did sell out, though, for the pre-orders was the 30th anniversary edition. I think you said 25 in your notes, but I'm pretty sure it's the 30th.
Okay, yeah.
The 30th anniversary edition, which looks cool. They always sort of regenerate a similar looking console, but with PlayStation 1 features on it. So they always put the PlayStation logo in red and make some colourful buttons and then say it's an anniversary edition. And it looks the same every time. But I've bought many anniversary editions in the past, including that cool sort of see-through blue one. That was a limited edition. That was very nice. But I always used to like my limited edition consoles. Again, I wouldn't get anywhere near buying this one because it's, again, very expensive. People are paying over £1,000 for the sort of complete kit, which is a lot of money. But it sold out really quickly because people like the nostalgia and like having something special. So good luck to them. But they're doing it differently in Japan, I read, to discourage scalpers. Because I think in the UK and America, virtually everyone that's bought one is a scalper. So they're being sold for like thousands of pounds on eBay already, even though it's not technically out yet. But in Japan, I think you have to have had 30 hours of PlayStation Network time before you're allowed to purchase one, which is quite nice because it kind of puts off robots and scalpers a little bit. So hopefully they'll do something more like that in the future, or just go back to queuing up courage to buy your PlayStation 5 Pro rather than doing online ordering, which has always been a bit naff. There we go. That's my views on that one, G.
Nice. Yeah, I thought that looked like a very tempting thing to buy just because it looks so good. I think I was up for a controller. It came out. I think timing wise, it would have been super early in the morning for me to try and pre-order anything. I am in the market maybe for a second DualSense, so I was looking at the themed retro controller, thinking that would be a really nice way to go, but it wasn't to be. And yeah, PS5 Pro, I think, like you said, I think they're struggling at the moment to really sort of sell the benefit. I think once people see what games look like, they were quite sort of simple message that you could, rather than choose between higher frame rate and more visual fidelity, you can have both. That's a really good way to kind of break it all down. But again, I think until people really see that, they're not going to want one. And like you said, things are expensive. I think when this round of consoles came out, the Series S X and PlayStation 5. I expected them to be more expensive than they were, so I'm not too surprised to see prices going up. Having just been on holiday, I've seen how much you have to pay for dinner and for hotels in New York. So, like you said, everything's just got expensive. And so it's not a huge surprise. You don't have to buy it. And I think the price of the next consoles will be the interesting thing for me, because they will be tempting. Good stuff. State of play. There was also a state of play while I was away, and I saw you. I was going to say tweeting furiously, but it's not called tweeting anymore. And I think it was on Facebook. So
Yes.
I know you watched this one. Any highlights from that show?
It's the first one I've actually remembered was going to be on, but
Yeah.
it wasn't advertised very much in advance. I just saw it on Facebook and on Twitter/X literally the day, and it said it's coming tomorrow. But obviously UK time was actually coming today, so I managed to see it that night. It's always on 11 o'clock at night in the UK, which is always a bit of an odd time for watching stuff. But I watched it on the big screen. It looked quite good. And there was loads of good stuff in it, I thought, this time. It's probably my favourite out of my 3 state of plays I've ever watched. This is my favourite one because there's lots of stuff on it. So there's lots about the PS5 Pro, so that was fine as well. Some new controllers, some new colourways as well for the PlayStation 5, which is quite cute. I think it's called the Chroma edition, wasn't it? There was a nice purple one and a blue one, and that's sort of a grey one. So really nice controller and faceplate combos. But also some really big game announcements. So Ghost of Yotai was probably the biggest one, which is a follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima. So that was really fun, and graphically that looked ridiculous if you looked at it. You sort of had this Japanese warrior person with a mask on, and then they took the mask on and looked over the field of yellow stuff, and it looked unbelievable on the big screen. So it looks really good. So very excited about that one. Not that I've played the original at all, but I'm really excited about the follow-up, whichever one goes on PS Plus first. I can't wait for that one. They also announced that The Last of Us 1 is now for free on PlayStation Plus, which is nice. So obviously for those of us who have paid the money, not so good, but for those who haven't played it yet, this is probably the last chance to play it for the 5 people left in the world that have never played The Last of Us yet. They also announced officially, finally, the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster for PS5 and PC. So again, that looked really cool. Looks like it's going to be at a very high standard, similar to Horizon Forbidden West, was it, the follow-up? Yeah. So that takes it to the same kind of standard, that one, and again, looked amazing. Almost as excitingly, Lego Horizon Adventures is coming out soon, so that looked really cool. So that's a sort of a Lego game based on both of the Horizon games. So all the Lego games based on popular franchises are always really good value and really good fun for me and Joshua. So looking forward to that one. A few other little bits on the PSVR 2. There was Hitman World of Assassins. That's coming in December. So that looked really good. I used to enjoy the Hitman games in the olden days on the PC and the Amiga and everything else. So they're still going strong. And this one sort of recreates lots of very famous assassinations from over the world over a series of years. So that looked quite fun and looked like it could exploit the PSVR 2 a bit. Nice game called Hell Is Us, which is a sort of a horror game, but is all about the biggest horror and the biggest evil in the world is within yourself. So that seems quite deep and dramatic, but that's not coming until 2025, so it could be anything different by then. And then the only other one that's coming out this year, I think, was a game called Fear the Spotlight, which I thought was quite interesting. There's 2 girls go into a school out of hours after dark and do a seance, and then it all goes horribly wrong. So it's like a third-person horror adventure game. Your friend disappears and goes missing within the school, and you have to avoid the gaze of this monster that's lurking in the corridors. So that looks really good. So it's already been out on the PC for the last year, but it comes out on October the 22nd on PlayStation 4 and 5, and it's also having a big update on Steam as well. So I'm guessing they've remastered the whole thing ready for the PS5 launch. So that looks really exciting. So lots of things to look forward to there. There's a new Fortnite controller as well, which I thought looked quite funky and a sort of sticker stuck on a controller type way. So that's interesting. And loads of other game announcements as well and follow-ups. Like there's another Monster Hunters Wilds game that looked good. The Dragon game, can't remember the name of it, but like, so many good things. Just look on the Facebook page, and I took lots of photos on my massive TV of all the new games coming up and when they're coming up. So if you're interested in new things and exciting about PlayStation bits, and have a look on there, because there's loads of good stuff coming up. What did you spot from there, G?
Yeah, well, I was sort of catching up on the clips really, but yeah, Ghost of Yotai was the one for me. It looked really good. I was frantically, just for your benefit, James, or anyone who is watching, if we put this video up, I was paying attention, although I looked like I wasn't, because I was just looking up, because I was pretty convinced Ghost of Tsushima is currently on PlayStation Plus, and it certainly seems to be. So if you do want to dive into the original, it is there. I couldn't tell because I've got some backed up games that I subscribed to or downloaded back in the past. I couldn't remember if it was one that I'd just bagseed or if it was on there available now, but it is. And it is a stunning game. Even on PS4, it was a stunning game. So it looks great with a little PS5 upgrade. And no doubt the new one will look even better. I think that was the one that stood out for me. The other thing that stood out was that there were a lot otherwise of multi-platform games. So good news if you are on Xbox or one of the other platforms on PC, for example. Quite a lot of things. There weren't as many exclusives as quite often happen in the state of play. So that was good news if you're on one of those other platforms. And generally, I think PlayStation really sort of had to. I mean, they don't have to because they're selling plenty of consoles, but certainly the fans were keen for them to come out and try and sort of get people excited about what's coming next, because they've been a bit quiet in terms of their own studios. They're all working hard, no doubt, on new versions of their games, but apart from remakes, PlayStation Studios haven't really done very much recently, so or not very successful. Outside of Astrobot, which I have to acknowledge looked amazing and I can't wait to play. But on the sort of main franchises of theirs, it's been a bit quiet. So along with Wolverine, which got trailered years ago and we haven't seen very much of, I think Ghost of Yotai is, it was dated, wasn't it, for next year?
Yeah.
So we do know something big that's coming next year on PlayStation, and I'm sure there's other stuff in the pipeline. So it's good.
Yeah, there's also a DLC announcement there for Astrobot as well, which had some Halloween-y bits in. So, good DLC there. Again, neither of us have had time to play Astrobot yet, or the investment into cash required to play Astrobot more accurately. But that'll be very exciting when it does come. And Giles, you are correct. I did also have Ghost of Tsushima in my library ready to play at some stage. But I couldn't remember if it was a game of the month or whether it was an actual game that's still in there. So I bagged it at some stage, along with the other 124 things that are in my PlayStation library.
There we go.
That's life, isn't it?
Yeah, we just need to clone ourselves and we'll be fine. But think how long the damn episode would be if we got to play all of these things. So that's a blessing, listeners. Speaking of which, unless there's anything else in our little notes section for News Bytes, should we go to our main topic? Because I can see the clock ticking away.
Yeah, weirdly, I can't see the clock ticking away this month. It's changed on mine. There's no clock on mine, so I'm completely guided by you, Giles. We could have been there for an hour or 2 hours or 10 minutes. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, if you look out your window outside, you'll see it's getting dark. So time to,
cool.
Which would be really helpful actually, because we're about to talk about our spooky games for October.
So nice.
The fact that this is a rare recording during daylight hours is horribly off.
First.
Yeah, horribly off message, but I'm sure we can change it in post-production, put some bats around or some other nonsense. As I said, we've been talking about darker games really since we started this podcast, and given that it is spooky season, it is October, what other excuse do we need than to kind of run through some of our favourite, not necessarily best, because some of them maybe are sort of personal memories, but some of our favourite spooky or ghoulish or ghostly games. James, do you want to kick off with something from your list?
Yeah, I'm just going to mention a few things, but we're not going to talk about them in detail because we've talked about them much in the past. So, The Last of Us is a great series that has got zombies and stuff in it, so obviously it's got lots of jump scares as things creep out on you, and it's very horrifying the whole way through. So again, great game. We've already talked about Still Wakes Deep, which again, lots of jump scares, lots of monsters coming out of you that look like big spiders on a rig in the middle of nowhere. So again, quite scary and not the kind of game you want to play in the dark on your own. We've talked in the past a lot about Alan Wake as well, which again has lots of horror elements in it. There's lots of monsters that come at you that don't like torchlight. There's lots of games where monsters don't like torchlight or fires, bizarrely. Funny it's true in the real world. So again, Alan Wake 2 is another game that both of us are very keen on playing. It's probably in both of our libraries, or if not, we're saving the money for it, one of the two. There's also a new DLC announced, a State of Play as well, called The Lake, I think. So again, Alan Wake, another recommended game that's very scary in parts. But I'm not going to talk about any of them. I'm going to start by talking about one I mentioned earlier, which is Little Nightmares 2. So that was on PlayStation Plus at the moment for spooky season. And it's pretty good. We've talked in the past about two games, Limbo and Inside, which are both made by the same company, I believe. Giles is much better at that kind of stuff than me. And they were both quite creepy in kind of a platform type way where you made your way through a level and it was all quite dark and mysterious and suspenseful. And Little Nightmares, I'm only a couple of hours in, but it's quite a similar type game in that it is very suspenseful and very dark and mysterious. So you play a character, which I assume is a small boy. He's got a bag on his head at the start, so you can't really tell what he is, or she is, or it is. Maybe it's neither, who knows. And he moves through, or she, or it, moves through some levels with a bag on the head, jumping over stuff, climbing up things, swinging on stuff. Usual platformy type stuff, but it's all very dark. And then he gets to a house, and gets in the house, and there seems to be some dead people in the house, which is a bit odd. They've got sort of clay, knackered faces, very odd. And then he finds a little boy sort of locked into a room out the back. So he teams up with the little boy, helps the little boy to escape, and then they travel on together through various adventures, including being shot by a farmer who also looks like he might be dead, but who knows? Lots of dead things, lots of farmers, lots of guns. And they generally run around lots, escaping from things in a dark, scary way. So it's a really atmospheric game already. Like I said, I'm only 2 hours in, so I've not seen the whole thing, but it's definitely my kind of thing. It's mysterious, suspenseful, dark, odd, kind of disturbing, and perfect for Halloween season, I think. So the kind of game you can enjoy with friends or on your own in the dark on a massive screen. Go for yours, 1G. What's your fancy?
Yeah, no, I'd recommend both the Little Nightmares games. And there's a really weird situation going on around that franchise or that development team, because I think the people who developed it have now got a new game due out quite soon, which looks very much like Little Nightmares. Can't remember the name, apologies, listeners, but it was in a previous State of Play or showcase. So they've gone off and done something else because the publishers have gone with a different team to make Little Nightmares 3. So if you do enjoy one or two, you might have two choices quite soon to follow up. But yeah, some genuinely terrifying stuff in Little Nightmares 2. Definitely not fun for all the family. But also it's that sort of Tim Burton-ish kind of spookiness, isn't it? It's kind of everything's a bit off kilter and kind of weird. And no, recommend it. Yeah, I mean, I thought quite a lot about this. Is what is sort of spooky, whether it's kind of that fun, kind of Halloween-y type spookiness, or whether it's genuine terror and horror. And on the second stream, the thing that came to mind was the only game that I've actually stopped playing because I was too scared, which is Alien Isolation. Genuinely terrifying experience, which I would give as a recommendation, but also, like I said, I did stop because I just found it too stressful. You mentioned Still Wakes the Deep earlier, and in Still Wakes the Deep, there is some moments where you are sort of hiding from a monster, essentially, aren't you? And trying to stay hidden and quiet. The difference in Alien Isolation is that the alien is very much based on the one in the movie. The first movie is super intelligent and will happily come along and open up the locker that you're hiding in, or look under the bed that you're hiding under, and will then kill you. So you have to hide and hold your breath and distract and run and all kinds of things that are genuinely terrifying. It is brilliant. It's an excellent sense of place. The ship that you are on, different ship to the one in the first film or any of the subsequent films. There's a connection with Ripley. I think it's her daughter, potentially. Again, I think that's in the synopsis rather than a spoiler, but I might be wrong because I played a while ago. And just highly recommend it. And it came back to memory quite recently because the new Alien film, Alien Romulus, the director clearly also loved Alien Isolation and has talked a lot about how he was inspired by the game to make a new Alien film. And there's a few nice little Easter eggs in the film, which he's highlighted in some interviews. Probably read the interview after you've seen the film, though, because it's a bit of a spoiler. But yeah, so it was probably the best and worst horror experience I have had. Back to you, James.
Again, it's another game I've got in my PlayStation library. I never actually played so far, so
yeah,
you put me off completely now, so I shall never open that one.
It's fun.
That's one knocked off the list. I'll go with Until Dawn because it's a different type of game. Again, I'm sure most people have played Until Dawn. It's also coming out on PlayStation 5 in a remastered version, and probably PC around nowish. Might already be out. Who knows? So,
You all right?
yeah. There's a weird noise in the background.
There's a
weird
helicopter over me, which it sounds like the microphone may be able to pick that up. But listeners, don't worry. If they're coming for me, I will tell you, and I'll make a run for it. Otherwise, I'm sure it'll go.
I thought you were dropping in some Halloween sound effects to accompany my... How bizarre. That's generally scary. Anyway, yeah, Until Dawn. So it's kind of a movie adventure type game. It feels like you're in a movie. So there's a number of characters who are going on an adventure. So they've sort of going to a place up in the mountains, out of the way, in a sort of a log cabin, to have some fun time as a group of 4. And there's some famous actors in it, like I think Hayden Panettiere's in it, for example. And they all look exactly like their characters, weirdly. So if you Google the voice actors, they all look identical to their characters in the game. Fun little side bit there. Always look it up. Always fun with those kind of games. And yeah, things go wrong a bit because as a group, you go off in different places. You get chased by certain things happen. You have to make some decisions as to what you're going to do. There's lots of those quick time thingies where you have to press the right button at the right time so you don't fall off a mountain or get hit by something or get attacked by something else, or if you manage to run away fast enough. So really good game, very atmospheric. Again, it feels like you're being part of a movie script. And all those kind of games are very similar. I think there's another one called The Quarry and The Man of Medan we've talked about before in one of the early episodes. So the Dark Anthologies trilogy, all those kind of games, very similar, all by the same company, all have a similar kind of feel to them. And they're very interesting. Lots of jump scares. It feels very atmospheric. If you put your headphones on and watch it in the dark, then you feel like you're sort of part of it, and it's really interesting. And the idea of the game is to try and save as many characters as possible. So you're trying to get as many of the group of visitors to the end of the game as possible. And every now and again, the narrator pops up to say how you're getting on and to say some scary things about life. And at the end, you've done really well if you save everyone, but I think it's pretty much impossible to save everyone, so someone's always going to die somewhere. And it depends on how you play each character and how you build relationships and what you say and where you go and what you do as to which characters survive and which ones don't. So very much recommended. If you've not played it on PlayStation 4 or anywhere else, get the PS5 version. It'll probably be on PlayStation Network soon. Probably. Who knows? Great game. Next one for you, G.
Nice. When you said the commentator comes up to the narrator says scary things about life, as sort of 40-something people, that's things like your mortgage interest rate is about to double, or you're never going to find a job that truly satisfies you. Is that the sort of thing, or am I getting the wrong end of the stick?
No, very similar.
Terrifying.
I think. Wasn't it the voice actor that did that when they died recently as well, maybe? Can't remember. Google it. It's very good, though. Nice. Very atmospheric. Adds to it. Carry on.
Sounds like fun. Good stuff. I was going to... we both, I think, got quite long lists, and we've already had quite a long episode. So I'll just say the Resident Evil series is kind of an easy one, but also, I don't know, I've had a mixed experience of Resident Evil. There's a couple of times where it's genuinely scared me. I think of the dogs jumping through the windows in Resident Evil 1. I think that was something that anyone who's played that game probably took a little bit of a leap or a streak at. But mostly it's a kind of quite campy horror, very slow shuffling zombies, and the threat and the danger coming from your terrible turning circle or inability to reload or lack of typewriter ribbons. But yeah, so I've sort of dabbled in Resident Evil, and it just reminded me again that I've got three games, Resident Evil games, that I own or have access to that I haven't played. and that's as many Resident Evil games as I have played. So I obviously like the series, but have not done a very good job of keeping up with it. So Resident Evil 1 I've played in two forms, original and a sort of remaster. Really enjoyed Code Veronica, which was a well underloved version, which was on the Dreamcast, which is probably why it was less well played, less well thought of, but that was the first one that had 3D backgrounds, and I really enjoyed that game. And then Resident Evil 4, which is a lot of people's, or was a lot of people's favourite ever game. I also really enjoyed it. I haven't played the remake. Don't know if I want to, but remake of 2 and 3, because I haven't played the originals, are definitely on my list. As is 7, which was the first complete sort of change of direction, first person, apparently very scary, and continued the story in Resident Evil Village, and probably the 9th one if and when it comes out. So yeah, a couple of Resident Evil experiences for me: jump scares, some classic kind of shuffling zombie horror, and then the horror of the backlog, which surely for any gamer is the scariest thing that anyone can experience. James?
Yeah, I was going to say Resident Evil 7 was the one that was on PlayStation VR as well. So that was generally scary. Between the chronic nausea of walking around to get to the house in the first place, once you got into the house and saw the sort of evil weirdo family sitting in there, that was quite scary, because you sort of felt like you were actually trying to run away from them, which wasn't quite recreated in the game itself.
Yeah, how much of it did you play in VR? Because the whole game was playable, wasn't it?
The entire game was VR, yeah. I played very little of it because I felt nauseous throughout.
Okay.
So between trying to run away from people, it was abject terror and chronic nausea combined into a package.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because I briefly owned the PSVR, the first one, and I did have Until Dawn Rush of Blood. I don't know if that was a freebie or how I got hold of it, but I had that game as well as a Stranger Things demo. And horror in VR is a whole other level of terrifying, isn't it? So yeah, I don't have a headset now, so I wasn't going to talk about those. But thinking about it, yeah, VR is a scary way to experience these things.
Yeah. I had Rush of Blood as well, and again, very atmospheric, but again, nausea through the roof. But yeah, Sarah enjoyed it because she didn't get nausea from it, but I kept getting nausea. Although it's not so bad on the PSVR 2, interestingly. Right, so I'll talk about one more properly, and then I'll just give a few honourable mentions to wrap up later on.
Yep.
So Costume Quest, Joshua really enjoyed. So we played that a couple of years ago on the Xbox, probably, because that's what he mainly plays on. And you start off with 2 children going sort of trick-or-treating for Halloween, collecting candy, because it's in America, obviously. Or sweets for the UK listeners, if you don't know what candy is. And as you're walking around, then bad things happen. And instead of trying to save Christmas, you're now trying to save Halloween from the evils of a dentist. So, yeah, they turn out the dentist, can't remember what his name is, Oral, isn't it? Orel. And for some reason, he had a bad Halloween experience as a child. So as an adult, he decided to stop Halloween and stop candy because it's bad for your teeth, obviously.
Makes sense.
So you sort of time travel a bit. You go into the future and you see him having taken over the city, and everything's about this dentist and the cleanliness of teeth. And you're trying to somehow, using your time travel and various costumes, which you can purchase or find, you take on various powers, you can do different things. And in the end, the aim is to defeat the dentist, which is the final baddie monster. And it then saves Halloween back in the present, because he hasn't taken over the world and you've made him happier, so he doesn't feel so bad about Halloween. So it's an interesting concept. It is a proper Halloween game, because it's based around Halloween, the time of year. There's proper trick-or-treating. There's Halloween costumes to wear. Everything is like pumpkins everywhere, until you get to the future, whereby there's no mention of Halloween or candy at all, because it's been taken over by this evil dentist, who's not really evil, bless him. So great game. Very much recommended. It's Joshua's kind of game. He played through the whole thing. We did it together. Lasted a good few hours, played it over a couple of weeks. And a really, really good game. Very sweet. Obviously aimed at children, so it's not got anything violent in it, no swear words, no bums and buggers. So that's good. And very entertaining game for the family, but also a bit spooky because it's got cutesy Halloween costumes and scenes in it. So very much recommended.
Nice. Yeah, that seems more in keeping with the sort of the fun version of Halloween that I think a lot of families enjoy this time of year. Certainly, having been in America, seeing people get into it in what mid-September it was quite it was quite alarming. But one house we walked past when we stayed in the same location for a couple of days, there were some pumpkins the first day, then couple of figures appeared the next day, and then I dread to think just how Halloweeny that house was going to be after another 5 weeks or something of building up to it. But clearly, yeah, kids who enjoy that sort of thing, and it sounds like a great choice. Yeah, I think so. You mentioned wrapping up. I'll wrap mine up. Just sort of rounding up a group of older games that sort of touch on the theme. I mean, I'm going to be a technically here, but technically, I guess Pac-Man, given the ghosts, and you can be chased around a maze and ghosts, and then you can turn the tables. Obviously, that was the joy of Pac-Man, wasn't it? That you could turn the tables on the ghosts, take one of the fruit, and then chase them around as well. So that's always good if your kids are scared of ghosts and ghouls. You can show them that there's no need to be afraid. Just eat your fruit and vegetables, kids. Great message, or candy in your case. Also reminded me then of Ghosts and Goblins, or rather, I looked up Ghosts and Goblins because I was convinced it was called Ghouls and Ghosts, and that was because apparently Ghouls and Ghosts was a version of the series on the Super Nintendo back in the day, and obviously as a mature young person, I loved that game because it was spooky and my sort of thing, a kind of side-scrolling platformer really with a bit of sort of fighting, but mainly because when you got hit you were a knight and you lost your armor and had to run around in your pants, which obviously now I'm mature, grown up, and don't find that sort of thing hilarious. Actually, maybe I do. But back then, it was the funniest thing I think I'd ever seen, ever, at the time. So just going back in time, a couple of classics, and also a shout out to a very obscure game called Gabriel Knight, The Beast Within, which was one of those. Do you remember when a lot of games wanted to be movies and was sort of full motion video? Gabriel Knight was a sort of detective or an investigator, and there were werewolves and stuff. And it was just a really bygone era, or thought it was a bygone era of gaming. But just because you mentioned Until Dawn and The Quarry and everything else, I thought maybe things do go around in circles. So, yeah, if anyone's listening and enjoyed Gabriel Knight, hit me up. I'd love to reminisce.
I think I also remember a game called Phasmagoria, which seemed to come on like 7 or 8 different DVDs. Yeah. And it was a completely movie-based game. Bizarre. Long time ago. Excellent. Yeah, just to wrap my bits up, very quickly, I played a couple of little games this morning. I looked at the sort of top 50 list of horror/spooky games. So I thought I'd give a couple of them a go. So I did this morning. So I played Evil Within, started that one off. That's pretty grim. Yeah. You turn up at a medical. Yeah, turn up at a medical facility and everyone's dead, and then you get attacked and you find yourself hung upside down on a hook, bleeding, surrounded by bodies, and then this geezer comes in with a chainsaw and starts trying to hack at you and you're running away from him. My word. So that was interesting. So Evil Within, I recommend if you like being surrounded by gore and chased by people with chainsaws. Who doesn't? I tried Soma this morning as well. Interesting game. So I don't know if you've ever played Soma or not, but you have had a car crash, so you've got some brain damage, your brain keeps bleeding, and you're minutes away from a fatal brain bleed if something bad happens, so you haven't got long to live. And you agree to take part in some research facility where they're monitoring brains so they can do a treatment program based on your brain condition. And you get there, you're having your brain scan, and then suddenly the lights go off, and you appear in an underwater research facility where robots have taken over. So there's got a bit of Still Wakes You Deep to it, and then you're in a facility and you're walking around in an atmospheric location being chased by monsters. So again, very, very much jump scary, but I played a couple of hours this morning and that was fascinating as well. Just the last few little ones, Joshua's games, I'll mention his ones. He plays a game called Doors on Roblox. So you have to get through 100 doors. So you go through the doors in numerical order, but there's monsters that appear in certain locations, and you have to hide in cupboards and dart around and look at them and kick them and do different things. And there's lots of characters at the same time. It's really good fun, and Joshua loves doors, so that's very mysterious and Halloweeny. Ghostbusters, the video game we played together last Halloween because we wanted to play a Halloween game, so we played it on Xbox, and it's good. It's quite realistic. I was going to say it's quite authentic to the original film. So there's four of you waving around with dreams of stuff, and there's Slimer and ectoplasm and all that stuff. So that's quite interesting. I'd recommend Ghostbusters for a good little bit of fun. And finally, obviously, Minecraft Dungeons. I love Minecraft Dungeons. Joshua loves Minecraft Dungeons. And obviously, every character in it is Halloween themed. So you've got robots and pumpkins and exploding things and witches and all kinds of and skeletons that you kill with your swords as you race around Minecraft Dungeons. So again, a perfect Halloween game for those of you with children. The end.
Excellent. Thank God we finished on a slightly later note, because when you were talking about evil within, I was like, especially those of you who listen as you're drifting off to sleep, I really hope you sleep well tonight with that description of sheer terror. Excellent. Well, let us know what you think, if you've got a particular favourite that we left off, if you agree or disagree with anything on our list. As we said, these are some of our favourites, rather than necessarily the best. I'd definitely throw Gabriel Knight and probably Phantasmagoria not as examples of highbrow quality gaming, but in both cases, good spooky fun. Right, well, that's the show. Please remember to like and subscribe to the podcast. Consider giving us a 5-star review. That does really help us push up the ratings, and boy, do we need it. We'd also appreciate a follow and interaction on social media, particularly our Facebook page or on Threads, where things are going pretty well. Thank you for those of you who chip in. We're at Aches and Games on most socials, or our Facebook page is Aches and Games, or email achesandgamespod@gmail.com, or please visit our website, which is achesandgames.co.uk. Is it not, James?
Certainly is, Giles. A company in the UK. Perfect.
There we go. Whose company? As are we. I'm Giles Nicholson at Giles West on most things. How about you, James?
Yeah, James hopes, as you know, you have to laugh at social media. James will not send me out on PlayStation. Pop along, say hi, send me a friend request, or don't. Completely up to you. And have a great Halloween. It's a very exciting time of year for children and adults alike. So if you look at some of the prices of the inflatable watches down home base at 60 quid, you'll certainly be in for a fright. So I hope you enjoy it. And hopefully this time next month I'll be able to talk about the completion of our building work. So that's another horror story rapidly unfolding.
Fingers crossed. See you next month, everyone. First Friday of the month for more Aches and Games. Cheers.
Bye-bye.